Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this week's Monday Zen and Zazen class. Today is one of those days where I will talk about the precious mirror Samadhi. We're getting closer to the end. But before I talk, let's sit together 30 minutes. Thank you for joining. So today I want to speak about the precious mirror Samadhi, Hokyo Zammai in Japanese. At first, let's have a look at the text where I arrived last time. The top sentence, I think that's where I stopped 2 weeks ago. So minute it enters where there is no gap. So vast it transcends dimension. So that's the last of the 5 ranks. Basically, the landscape of enlightenment. And the last of the 5 ranks was the rank where there isn't even a trace left of enlightenment or illusion. You have completely forgotten about the Buddha Dharma. You're a completely normal person again. And after that follows the sentence, a hair's breadth deviation and you are out of tune. Just a minimal gap and the whole music is lost, so to speak. And there's a similar expression in the text that's called Shinjin Mei in Japanese or Shinjin Ming in Chinese. That's a text about faith in the mind. The characters for Shin and Jin mean, well, mind and faith and mind. And also in the Fukanza Zengi text, those of you who have been attending these classes for a long time maybe remember about 2 years or so, I'm not quite sure, I don't remember, but we studied the Fukanza Zengi text. And I would like to share that with you as well. That's the translation that you can find sorry, on the Antaiji homepage. It starts with the following lines. The way is originally perfect and all-pervading. What need is there for practice and realization? The Dharma vehicle is rolling freely. Why should we exhaust our efforts? There's no speck of dust in the whole universe. How could we ever try to brush it clean? Everything is manifest at this very place. Where are we supposed to direct the feet of our practice? You could say that these few sentences are also an expression of the scenery of enlightenment. What Dogen says there in simple terms is, we are already Buddhas. It's not that we need to practice hard from now on so that maybe one fine day we will finally get enlightened and become Buddhas ourselves. You are already a Buddha. There's nothing left to do. There's nothing to attain. And there's nobody who needs to attain anything. You're already there. You already have reached your destination. You are already in nirvana. But there's a danger there. And the danger is you understand that intellectually, okay, if I'm already a Buddha, if I'm already in nirvana, then I can just do as I please. It doesn't really matter. You don't take responsibility for your life. There's no need for you to sit for 30 minutes on these Mondays. So the next sentence here is very close to the sentence that we just read in the precious mirror Samadhi. It goes, now if you make the slightest discrimination, you will create a gap like that between heaven and earth. And as I said, in the Xin Ming, there's a very similar expression. What kind of discrimination or what kind of gap does Dogen Zenji speak of here? I think he means the gap between what you have understood and what you practice. So you have understood that you're already a Buddha, but that shouldn't become an excuse to not manifest it. If you have understood it, or even then after that, Dogen Zenji says, you might even have deep enlightenment experiences. So not only have you understood it intellectual, but you have experienced it in yourself. It's not a concept anymore, it's an experience. Even then, if you don't put it into practice, if you don't manifest it, that's the gap that Dogen is talking about and that the precious Mirror Samadhi text is talking about. Even if you have seen the scenery of enlightenment with your own eyes, if there's only the slightest gap towards your practice in daily life, the whole music is lost. It's like a gap between heaven and earth. So that's why the Fukan Zazen starts with this first paragraph, which is a scenery of enlightenment, but then Dogen Zenji says, take care. If there's even the slightest gap, even if you have deep enlightenment experiences, it's like you're stuck with the head in the entranceway and your body doesn't find the way out. And after that, Dogen Zenji goes on to actually explain how Zazen is practiced. And in the case of this text, what is following after this is again a 5-step system that's attributed to Tozan or Chinese Dungshan. So we often talk about the 5 ranks. I talked about it the last couple of weeks, but actually there's 2 different versions of the 5 ranks. One is the 5 ranks of the absolute and the relative, or Bolleter, the Australian Zen teacher who I have been quoting a lot. He calls it the essential and the contingent. That's the first system. And sometimes I show this cardboard. That would be the Chinese characters. Shou and Ten, the absolute and the relative. The absolute inside the relative inside the absolute, breaking out of the absolute, arriving in the relative, and finally settling down in harmony where both are forgotten. That's the first system, the first 5 ranks. And the second, Bolleter calls it the cycle of merit. And so before I continue with the text, I would like to explain to you the cycle of merit. If you can read Chinese characters, here you have the Chinese characters. The first one here means to face a certain way, or Bolleter calls it orientation. To face in a direction. Could also say maybe to look for direction. The second is service, or to give your all, you could say, to give everything, service. The third one, that's also, I think, the character with which you write Kung Fu. Kung Fu practice is written with this character. It can also mean making an effort or to train, but in this case it means, well, merit. Bolleter says merit or virtue. It's basically what you receive after you gave everything. You give everything, but then basically you receive your whole life, you could say. I often use the expression, you die on the cushion, but in a way it's almost like Easter. You die on the cushion, but then you are resurrected. That would be the third, merit. You receive your whole life. Then number 4, the same character with this character. This character can mean together, or to share. I wrote here shared merit. Bolleter thinks as common merit. Common merit would be also a possibility for the 4th step here. Basically, what you receive, this present, you want to share it with others. It's not yours alone. It belongs to everybody, so you want to share it. And then finally, I think Bolleter says merit upon merit, or I wrote merit beyond merit. You don't stop there, but you go beyond. So what's the difference between these 5 ranks and those 5 ranks? The main difference is the 5 ranks with the absolute and the relative that I've been talking about all the time. There's no progress there. Each step is how do you say? Equal expression of enlightenment. They're all different, but it's not that one is higher and the other is lower. They're all the same. There's no process there. While this here, you could say it's a process. You start here and you go deeper and deeper. And Bolleter, let me share that with you. He also compares it to the ox herding pictures. In his book you find this table here. On the left side is the cycle of merit. On the right side you find the ox herding pictures. So the first one, orientation, would be seeking the ox. You're looking for enlightenment, you're looking for your true self. Number 2, finding the tracks, and now you practice. You haven't seen the ox yet, but you give your all. And then number 3, merit, would be seeing the ox. Finally you see. You have a breakthrough experience. The 4th stage would, according to Bolleter, correspond to catching the ox, taming the ox, riding the ox home, and then the final, returning to the marketplace all at once. That's quite a lot, all at once. And then the final one, according to Bolleter, corresponds to picture 7, transcending the ox. That's when the ox has disappeared and there's only the man, the person that was looking for the ox, left over. And then 8 is often represented by an empty circle, and 9 returning to the source. This is often represented. Am I sharing right now? I'm not sharing. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing. I was looking on this the whole time, but I didn't share it with you. Basically, I was talking about this table here. I'm not quite sure if I agree with Bolleter completely, because in my view, talking about the 10 ox herding pictures, for me, the 4th one, grasping the ox, getting a firm grip on the ox, is very close to the 8th picture, in my view. Basically, that's an experience of the absolute reality, emptiness. Taming the ox and then riding back home on the ox, for me, is close to the 9th picture. Then the 10th picture, for me, is very close to the 7th picture. So I don't agree personally with Bolleter so much, but I I get the point that these first stages are still stages of practice. Here, that's personal enlightenment, but here, fourth stage, you share it with others. And then you get beyond. And you could also make a parallel here to the famous passage in the Genjo Koan chapter by Dogen. Maybe the most famous words by Dogen altogether, which are to study the Buddha way means to study the self. Maybe in the beginning of your practice you don't really know what you're looking for. You want to study Buddhism, but actually what you're looking for, even if you don't know it, you're studying yourself. But then, number two, to study yourself means to forget yourself. And I often, when I talk about my own personal story, I say when I first came to Antaiji, the Abbot told me, you create Antaiji. If you don't become Buddha, you will find Buddha nowhere. And that's basically this, to study the Buddha way is to study the self part. But then after a couple of years, and I still can't really cook well in the kitchen, and I said, but I haven't come to Antaiji to learn how to cook. I have to hear it's not about you. Basically, this is the service part. You have to give your all, forget yourself. Forget yourself. And if you really do that, you give everything. Basically, that's what Dogen says. When you forget yourself, forgetting yourself means to be authenticated by the 10,000 things. You rediscover yourself in the mirror of the 10,000 things. That would be step 3, the merit. What I've been looking for, it was right in front of my eyes all the time. It was always there. It's just that I was thinking it must be somewhere hidden. Kind of what I just said, you die on the cushion, but then you realize, but I was alive all the time. It was so close. I was always living the thing that I was looking for. I was the animal that I was searching for. And then number 4, in Dogen's words, would be to be authenticated by the myriad things means to drop your own body and mind, and also the body and mind of others. That's probably the only part in the Genjo Koan where Dogen talks about others. So it's not only your body and mind that drops, it's also the other's body and mind that drops. So you share it. That's the part where you return to the relative world and you bloom like a lotus in the mud or lotus in the fire. You return with ash on your head. So I think the 3rd, 4th and 5th stage here are actually very close to the first cycle. So this would be the absolute, coming out of the absolute, starting from the absolute. This would be very close to arriving in the relative and working as a bodhisattva. And the 5th, merit beyond merit, in Dogen's words, would be the traces of enlightenment disappear, but this way without traces continues forever and ever. And at that point you could say that you even forget about this mission that you have as a bodhisattva. I need to, how do you say, spread the gospel. I need to teach others how to sit. Even that you forget. You're just a normal person again. And the following lines of the precious mirror Samadhi basically explain that, while in the Fukan Zengi, Dogen Zenji concentrates on the practice of sitting. Here it's more about the study with a teacher. And the text talks both about, well, skillful means, you could say. We talk in Buddhism about skillful means, that you need to have as a teacher, but also about the attitude that you need to have as a student. But today, there's only 10 minutes left, so I will stop to talk now. And if there's things that you would like to ask or share, you're welcome to do so. And we will return to the actual text in 2 weeks. Any questions? Anything that you would like to share? Nothing? Tanya, please.
Well, a point from just the start of your talk, when you said it's nothing worth you practice if you don't live your practice in the daily life. And I thought, what is this daily life? And for me, in my mind came, okay, I have to meet the moment. I have to meet what in the moment is needed. And then there's no difference between practice and life. And so this was, in my expression, what the point was trying to make Dogen, and it was Dogen and who else? This precious mirror Samadhi as well. That was the first thing I'd like to share. And the second thing is when you talked about this 5 steps, this circle, this merit, which is similar to the ox herding pictures, I thought, well, but all those steps are happening right now. They can be in anyone's practice right now, all together. I always have to orient and to be a service and can have the merit and have the shared merit. It's not that I think it will be ended anytime.
Yes, I agree. Yes. Yeah, I totally agree with that.
And how do you pronounce this happy birthday in Japanese I received from my bank? I couldn't read it.
Otanjobi omedetou gozaimasu.
Otanjobi
omedetou gozaimasu.
Omedetou gozaimasu. Okay, it's so hard. I tried to ask my Google Translate, but there was no voice, I couldn't listen. Maybe I need another KI or something to learn this, how to pronounce those Japanese words. But it was right, yeah? They didn't invent anything in this mail.
No, it was completely correct.
Okay.
Japanese, yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or anything else that you would like to share? No questions?
I was just going to say, I like this phrase, always the scenery of enlightenment, that we're always looking at the scenery of enlightenment, but more than that is to think we are actually part of the scenery of enlightenment. It's just that moment of doing it, isn't it? And when you were talking about the discrimination in the Fukan-Zazen-gi, it always reminds me of Carl Wallender, the great wire walker. You know, if you've done any high wire walking, there's this moment of true balance, and you're right on it. And he always said, life is being on the wire, everything else is just waiting, by which he meant he was a wire walker, so he had to walk the wire. And I guess for Zen practitioners, it just means you've got to practice Zen, basically. So I just wanted to share that wire walking thought.
Yeah, what you said about being part of the scenery, is the important point, and that's where often this kind of gap opens up, that we think it's enough to just take a view of the scenery, but when you see the scenery, you have to walk the scenery. You are the scenery, so to speak. You become part of the scenery. I often talk about being the meadow for the sheep, becoming the meadow. It's not enough to just see the meadow and watch the meadow. You are the scenery. You have to manifest the scenery. It's not only that you, how do you say, enjoy what is painted on that canvas of your life, so to speak, this picture of enlightenment, but you are the canvas and you're the painter at the same time. Anything else that you would like to ask or share? If not, next week we get back to Sawaki Roshi's quotes to you. Next week, that would be 21st. So after Easter. In Germany, it's a holiday. I don't know about the country you're living in. In Japan, it's an ordinary day. So I think for you, Xuanzang, it's okay. 21st, Easter. Yeah, Easter Monday. And then on the 28th, we get back to the text of the precious mirror Samadhi. So thank you, everybody, for joining. I hope to see you again next week, and I wish you a nice week. Thank you also, Xuanzang, for hosting us here, as always.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.